In May of 2014, two 12-year-old girls would lure their best friend into the forest, stabbing her 19 times and leaving her for dead. What would cause such an attack by young girls on their peer? This is the chilling case of the Slender Man stabbings. So these three girls, they were all best friends, grew up around the same town, went to the same school. They were in a friendship group together and they were really close. However, one night they all had a sleepover at one of the girls' houses. Everything was normal, everyone was happy, everyone seemed fine. No one had any idea, apart from the two girls, of the devious evil plan that they had for the next morning. So the next morning comes around now, and the victim, her name is Peyton, and the perpetrators are called Anissa and Morgan. So Anissa, Morgan, and Peyton, they go for a walk in the forest. It's in the morning, and at this point, Peyton isn't thinking anything of it. She thought it was just a normal morning walk for friends. So there's a point where the girls go a bit ahead of Peyton. So like, I think Peyton and one of the girls goes ahead, and then Anissa holds her down while Morgan stabs her. When they reached a very quiet, isolated part of the woods, they stabbed her 19 times while the other girl held her down. They left her for dead and they were covered in her blood, but they just walked away from the scene. They walked up to 5 miles when they were caught by the police eventually, because they were covered in blood and they didn't seem to be hiding or running away. But they were questioned and they basically said that they were trying to find Slender Man's castle so that they can basically go and appease him. So the police are hearing this story and they're just shocked that two 12-year-old girls could commit such a violent attack, like they were covered in blood. At this point, Peyton is still in the forest. She's bleeding out. She's fighting for her life. But somehow she has the strength and the courage to drag herself from where they left her to like a more open part of the park. So when she gets here now, she's like discovered by a cyclist who helps her, takes her to the hospital, and miraculously she survives. Like, one of the stab wounds had just missed her heart, so she survived. At this point, the girls didn't know, so they thought that they had succeeded and they had killed her. So they're being questioned at the police now, and the police are like, "Why did you do this?" And then the girls are like, "Oh, Slender Man told us to do it." So now the police are confused. They're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So the girls were under the belief that Slender Man had got them to murder their friend as a sacrifice to him. Otherwise, Slender Man would come for them and their families. So that's why they had like this calmness when they did it, because they felt like basically they had saved themselves, they saved their family, they'd appeased him. So the friendship group had been like any other friendship group of girls, just typical stuff, until like a few weeks, months leading up to this case. The girls Morgan and Anissa had become obsessed with horror. They'd become obsessed with the horror genre, obsessed with learning about Slender Man, obsessed with all the different blogs and horror genre stories and stuff like that online. They were like, would talk about it all day, every day. Everyone was tired of them, but no one thought it could lead to something like this. No one knew it would get this far. So because they were like a trio friend group, Peyton was not so much into it. She was kind of scared by it all. It kind of freaked her out. She didn't really like it. So because of this, it kind of created a slight rift in the friendship group where Peyton was slightly isolated, whereas Anissa and Morgan had this thing in common that they were both obsessed with. That was, they'll spend all day, every day talking about, researching, but no one thought anything of it. So Peyton was able to make a full recovery. She only spent about 7 days in the hospital, and she's thriving now. She's gone on to live a good life. She still talks about it from time to time. Morgan, who did the actual stabbing, was sentenced to 40 years in a mental institution. The state they were in, they were able to be tried as adults, but they took plea deals instead. So they were given 40 years in a mental institution for Morgan, and Anissa was given 25 years in a mental institution. Morgan was also diagnosed with schizophrenia and psychotic spectrum disorder. So they're still there to this day. I think in 2020, I think it was Morgan tried to appeal the decision, but she's still there. So on Slender Man now. Slender Man is a character that is very, very tall, very, very skinny. That's why it's called Slender Man. He wears a suit and he has no facial features. It's just white. Very, very tall, lurks around in woods and forests, and he basically messes with people's minds. Sometimes he has like tentacles coming out of his back to grab people. He messes with people's minds, causes anxiety, causes sickness, causes delusions, but he is in fact a fictional character. Now, Slenderman can be considered an urban legend because over the years there's been hoax sightings, people claiming to have seen him, claiming that he's caused them to do certain things, Photoshop pictures, stuff like that. There's been movies made. It's like a whole thing, but he's not real. Basically, Slenderman was created as part of a Photoshop competition done by the website Creepypasta, and basically the person that created Slenderman has just said like, yeah, it was just something I created, like a Photoshop competition. And that was that, but people just kind of took it and ran with it. There's been so many stories ever since. So like, there's always this debate about, is he real, is he not? But he's not. So yeah, I guess it explains the girl's mental illness. I think they just got so wrapped up in learning about it that they kind of almost had like a mass psychotic episode. But that was the case of the Slender Man stabbings. What do you guys all think about it? Do you believe in the Slender Man urban legend, or do you believe that it's just like the Photoshop competition thing? This is my first video in so long, so forgive me if I'm all over the place. I know I've been spinning on my chair the whole time. I'm gonna try and stop. But thank you guys for watching my video. Please subscribe if you can. I make TikToks as well, talking about similar things. See you in the next one.